Hello, welcome to my channel. I am the work wife. My name is Rachel. And today's topic is going to be another red flag, the second red flag that I wanted to go over in terms of identifying, what makes a toxic environment. Are you in one? And today's topic is going to be about drama. That coworker, that boss who's all about the drama. They love it and they love to draw you into it. But before I jump in, I have nearly 20 years experience in the corporate world and other areas as well. And with big companies, small companies, and everything in between. And the common denominator has been toxicity. And even if it doesn't rise to the level of what you might call toxic, it certainly is a difficult situation in general that you are dealing with day in and day out, and it's not getting any better. So I have successfully navigated my way through and around and out and every which way of those difficult work environments, and I'd love to help you with yours. So feel free to send me an email at theworkwifellc@gmail.com or send me a message on Instagram, theworkwife, and I'd love to help you. Okay, so today's topic is about drama, and more drama, which translates actually to trauma for you. And it could be a coworker, it could be a boss. A boss situation is trickier, and I can speak to that from experience. I dealt with a boss who was all about the drama. He was all about the gossip. He was all about what's going on out there. This is, back when we were going into the office day in and day out regularly. And I would show up to work without even having logged into my computer. And he'd be like, "Hey, do you have a minute?" That minute would sometimes turn into 6 hours. 6 hours in his office. And a lot of the time he would be talking about other people the whole time. Team members, his employees, my peers, other managers. It was everyone. And a lot of time he would repeat the same stories. And I would try to head him off and say, "You've talked about this already." It didn't matter. I'd have to listen to it again. And some days I didn't eat. Some days, that's how it was for me. I would not eat. I would be sitting in his office, virtually held hostage by his going on, and his emotions would range from, anger to sadness. I'm like, it was a roller coaster. Let's put it that way. And I was his employee, but I also ended up being his confidant. And people I'm managing, I'm trying to be, give him feedback about, issues I'm having, or, good things too about my employees. And somehow, because of his drama, he would somehow turn it into a negative. And so, my attempt to praise even my employees, he would say, "Well, that you don't know about this." And in essence, it became a gossip session. That's not what I was there for. Certainly not to be missing lunch every day for this nonsense. So this is what I'm talking about. And you know who those coworkers are. They're always gossiping, always talking about other people in a negative manner. No praise to be found for anyone. As I said, it's trickier with a boss because it's very hard to avoid them. But when it comes to a coworker, you can find ways to get around their speech and just say, don't even comment on what they're saying. And, if anything, the technique that I used for coworkers is that, and even to some extent my boss, is to play dumb. "Oh, I don't know. I've never heard that." "Really? Oh?" It seems the script that I used, I must have said "oh" or "wow" so many times, throughout the day. You would think that those are the only two words I could say. But it worked because, number one, it kept me out of the drama, in the sense that, I was still kind of held hostage by what they were talking about until I could extricate myself. But in the other sense, I didn't get engaged in it. I didn't agree or disagree. I was just like, "Oh." I was constantly surprised. Intentionally so. Now, that can only work so far with the boss. As I was describing my personal experience, sometimes I would get caught up in drama because he's my boss and he would be telling me to do things as his employee, but part of it was just outright spying, right? Getting into people's business. See if you can find this out. See if you can find that out, and I was his number one in terms of finding dirt on people. And what do you do with that? Couched under the guise of, I need you to understand what their workload is and what's going on with them and so on and so forth. But it's really just about getting dirt on them. And it was not good. Not good at all. So what can you do, other than separating yourself from a coworker, what can you do when you have a toxic boss like that? Well, you could go the honest route with saying, I really don't feel comfortable with this, what you're asking of me. I'm happy to research their workload and find out information as to what they're doing and how they're doing it and processes and procedures, and just make sure that they're trained. And if they're having difficulty, make sure they get retrained. But in terms of their personal lives, I'm not comfortable going there. And sometimes I did convey that with this person, sometimes with just an expression like, really? This is what you're asking me to do? Are you sure you want to ask me to do this? And sometimes that would work. That look of mine would make him pull up short and go, well, maybe that's a bad idea, And then he would go ask it to someone else. But I'm not asking you to go there in terms of, okay, now you've got to figure out how to prevent him from doing it to other people. Let's just focus on you. Also, another technique is redirection, which is usually reserved for toddlers. But we're going to do this in the work environment as well because the technique still works. Look over there! And it distracts them. Give them something else shiny to look at, something positive to look at that they cannot ignore. If it has to be something that you've done, well, guess what I just finished? Guess what project I just did? Guess what amazing feedback we got as a department? That will redirect. And it worked. It worked for me. Doesn't always work. Because, if that dramatic person is in a bad mood, they're determined to get it out. And if they perceive that you're trying to do that in a manipulative way, if you're a little too heavy-handed with it, they're going to recognize it. Then you're going to be late, and then they're going to double down. Or they're just going to talk about you to the next person, which did happen to me as well. But redirection is also a great, just like, oh, guess what? Oh, I forgot to mention this earlier. To some degree, unfortunately, with a lot of this, it's acting. But it's necessary in order to get through a situation where you're dealing with a toxic coworker who is all about the drama. Here's a last note I want to make. What if you are that toxic coworker who's all about the drama? If your personality is such, I tend to have a personality where I'm just like, I like to see the lay of the land. I don't jump into things too quickly, right? I just want to get along, right? And just see what everybody's personality is. But if you're if you're an extrovert and you just want to jump right in and you're outgoing and you're talkative and you want to make connections and you want to be that person, you have that, I don't want to say type A personality, but you know what I mean. You're a go-getter. And if it means, if it means conversation and connection and talking about stuff, and you're the one actually perpetuating, without even realizing it necessarily, the drama-filled conversation. You're carrying it to the next person. And this person told me, and you don't even realize you're gossiping. What can you do about that? Well, if you find out that you are the toxic coworker in that situation, making other people uncomfortable, you need to examine the content of what you're talking about. Is it really truly work-related, or are you getting a little too excited? This is usually where your ego is coming into play, and I think I mentioned this a while ago in another video, where if you're finding that as you're saying things, as you're spilling the tea, as they say, and you're getting real excited about talking about this boss or coworker to another person, more often than not, it's not about the work that you're talking about, because that's not nearly as exciting as talking about someone's personal details. So if you find yourself talking and it begins as a work-related conversation, and then you find yourself, and then you know what I heard? Usually, even when you drop your voice like that, that's a sign you shouldn't be talking about what you're talking about. And I'm not to say, and look, these things happen. to some degree, gossip exists. But you know when you're going overboard, or you know maybe you're talking to someone that you cannot 1000% trust, that you're telling them something and you're speaking out of turn. That could turn very bad for you. And then you're the toxic coworker causing problems. So I wanted to address that too, because I've been kind of speaking in assumption that you're kind of this innocent bystander and you're kind of at the mercy of your environment to some extent. But what if you become part of the problem because you know, maybe you came from an environment that was gossipy before, and now this is next level, and you find yourself in the midst of things and you always like to be in the middle. Watch it, because that's going to become problematic for you when you come up against something, or you've spoken about something that you really weren't supposed to discuss, and then it blows back right on you. So that's something to be careful of. If you have that outgoing personality and you love to talk and you love to connect with your coworkers, usually if you get a little too excited, probably something you shouldn't be talking about. So I hope that helps. As I mentioned, I am a workplace coach, or maybe I didn't mention it, but I am a workplace coach, career coach, however you want to call it. But I focus on those difficult situations where you're consistently dealing with a situation at work that's not making you feel good. You know, even if you don't want to use the word toxic, you know that you're not in a good situation, and you know that you come home with, from that environment not feeling good, not feeling hopeful, feeling devalued, feeling disrespected, or just unseen and unheard, not validated in the least. And so I am here to help you with this situation. So if you like this content, I'd love it if you would give it a thumbs up, and I'd love it also if you would subscribe and click that notification bell for any future videos, well, I shouldn't say any, but all future videos that come out from this channel. Again, stay centered, stay as cool as you can. These are crazy times. And until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.